face here. It was Melissa. I'm from Toronto originally. Went to school there, undergraduate, graduate school for a couple of years in chiropractic college, and moved down here to Manchester.
And Lisa Huey's here.
Yes.
Yay.
We're not related. She is not my wife.
They have
Spelled completely different.
right?
They have the
Last name
I
spelled
could
different.
never afford the E. I couldn't ever get it. So I'm involved in this company now, I think 9 years, which has been fantastic. So tonight we're going to talk about product and also application. Because if you're there, why are we here? To help as many people as we can, right? Live a long, happy, healthy, pain-free life. That's our goal. As a physician, that's always been my goal. But as someone who may be a layperson and you want to help them improve their life, that's also a wonderful goal to have as well. Have your people live with all your friends, all your family, all your people maybe you're going to like, maybe they're not have too much free radical damage, and you can change that. All right. So I gave this presentation a month ago up at Toledo University of Toledo. I was invited there to the Childhood Development Center, and I spoke there, and it was specific to kids with autism. So we're talking about kids with neurodevelopmental disorders, NDDs, and obviously who doesn't want to optimize your child's health or your grandchild's health? That's what we're talking about tonight in relation to 3 products: probio, Axio, and NRF2 Protan, in that order. Okay. Oh, gotta turn this on. So why am I involved with this company? For those of you who don't know this, you probably will. I'm excited about gut health and nutrition. Okay, it's this guy here. That's my 4th child. He had a genetic disorder when he was born, histiocytosis, which is a really nasty thing. Make a long story short, we went through some tough times with him. She was the match. Oh, there's work on your screen. Very good. My oldest daughter was 100% bone marrow match, so he gave him her bone marrow. She was kind enough to donate it. And he got better. And he's going to celebrate his 17th birthday this October. So the worst is over there. He does take a lot of things, and you'll see later on specifically what I was doing for him. All right, but we're talking about post-chemo treatment, exposure to antibiotics, vaccines, glyphosate, that's Roundup, other chemicals, plastic, ionizing radiation, chemo drugs, all these things that kids can be exposed to, or mandated treatments, vaccines, for example, leukemia, cancer, infections, anything that requires prescriptions also causes free radical damage in these kids, and that's not a good thing long term. So what can we do about that? All right. This ranges all the way from severe autism all the way down to just some behavioral disorders. All right, huge amount of research all over the country regarding how the gut health is affected by how the gut health actually affects your nervous system and immune system. I think we'd all agree that there's a lot of information out there. It's not new, but it's wonderful that it's getting into the popular press and more people understand that, you know, the gut-brain connection is what they're calling it now in the press, and that's kind of nice. So, these are some scary trends. CDC talks over the past 12 years, these developmental disabilities have gone and increased by 17.1%, autism by almost 300%, wow. ADHD by 33%, hearing loss actually has decreased by almost 31%, which is interesting. No one knows why that's the case, but that is. So a total of 1 in 6 kids born today have some kind of neurodevelopmental disorder. 1 in 6. That's insane. So, these are the rates back in 2004, when yes, we were actually still diagnosing these problems accurately. It's not like we've improved our diagnosis in the past 12 years, or 15 years, I should say. You go back even further, these diagnoses were 1 in 10,000 at the turn of the last century. And now we're talking 1 in 59. If the trend continues, by 2032, it'll be 1 in every 2 kids, and 80% are boys.
Oh my gosh.
80%?
Of boys, yes. And the fact that we're not riding in the streets trying to find out what is actually causing this, I have my own opinions. I can talk about that later on, but it's just unacceptable. We can all acknowledge that bad things are happening now and they're only getting worse, all right? So what causes epidemic is still up to debate for some people, but we can do something right now to improve and augment these kids' health care. My goal is to try to deal with your own kids, your own grandkids. So does that sound like a good idea?
Yeah.
Yes, it's a good idea. All right. So briefly, this is from a paper a couple of years ago. GI symptoms are commonly have comorbidity with patients with autism and ASD. Underlying mechanism is unknown. We got a pretty good idea what's going on though. So there's research going on there. Okay, the microbiome, which is your gut health, is extremely important in these problems. helping that gut health by using, let's say, the best probiotic that's out there will make a difference. We happen to have that, which is kind of handy. All right. So if these statements are true, how do we work on this information to improve the future of our kids? Biohacking. I love that phrase. You see it all over the place now. But what does that mean? That means improving your environment by taking control of your genes, your diet, your gut health, and making these things optimal. Improving to the best of our ability. Okay? My son had a genetic problem. We could not improve that because he had just a genetic disorder on his 9th chromosome. That's it. So they had to swap out his immune system for another one, and we were able to do that, thank God.
Amen.
So I like that. The art and science of becoming superhuman. Well, I don't think it's superhuman, just reaching our full potential. That's what the goal is. So there are 3 pillars of health, all right? But these 3 pillars have to be built on a foundation of common sense. What's that? What are those common sense things? Eat real food, okay? Oh,
There you go.
how'd that happen?
I don't know, but it works for the camera.
Okay, now I don't have to fix the screen.
Oops.
All right, we'll just leave it like that. Hang on, if I go this way. No, that ruined it. Maybe you stop fooling around with this. Slide it to the front, current slide. All right, good. We'll just work like that. This is what I tell my patients all the time. When it comes to food, if it comes from a plant, eat it. If it was made in a plant, don't. All right? Or if you can't read the ingredients on the label, it's a good chance that you shouldn't be eating that there. Avoid things that cause toxic and free radical damage in the body. Okay? Alcohol, bacon. As much as I hate to admit it, bacon is the worst food you can eat. Alcohol is the worst thing you can do. All right? Smoking, chemicals, but as far as what we do on a regular basis on purpose, I guess people smoke on purpose too. Pot, horrible. It is 15 times more powerful than it used to be in the 60s and 70s. It's been weaponized. It is absolutely brain damaging. So when people say, well, it's not as dangerous as alcohol, it's absolutely wrong. It is significantly
CBD
worse.
or pot?
No. Not CBD. That's not pot. Pot.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's edible or smokable, do not even go anywhere near that. Plus, it stinks like a skunk.
That's another reason why I'm tired.
And the last thing is to do what brings you joy and happiness. There you go. Okay. We want you to do what makes you joyful
Tell
and
me
happy.
more.
Just not smoking pot. Okay?
Jesus does.
Never
Save him.
underestimate.
Maybe this YouTube video will go viral. Pastor admits.
What goes on YouTube stays on YouTube. All right, so we have the foundation. It's changed a little bit. Okay, we have the foundation of health. Good food, good attitude, and make sure you stay away from nasty stuff. And then here are the 3 pillars that we're built on that foundation. Creating and maintaining proper gut health, that is hugely important. Improving energy levels and function of the brain and cells.
Not paying attention.
Yeah.
And reducing free radical damage and inflammation. So those are the three things we're going to shoot for here. I do testing in my office. You have to know about
Gut
this.
health, what was the other thing, brain health?
Gut health, brain health, and reducing free radical damage. So
Okay,
that's
got it.
probio, that's Axio, and that's NRF2.
Yep.
All right. So I do testing in the office. You don't have to understand much about this testing, but there's testing we can do to find out if the kids have food sensitivities and if they have bad guys in the gut. Okay. We're going to give them probiotic. If they got probiotics in their guts that are really nasty, if they have bacteria in the guts that are really nasty, Klebsiella, Pseudomonas, really pathological bacteria, they're not going to give up their space very easily. Matter of fact, they're going to fight like heck to keep it. So we do testing. I use biotech for the blood test, and doctor's data for the stool test, and they tell me who's in there. Good guys, bad guys, really bad guys, and they tell me how to kill them.
For anybody.
Anybody. That's it. For a child or for an adult, we can do that, especially for kids with these issues. So first thing we do is the antibiotic test, because if you're eating foods, here's the basic premise. The gut is a 1-cell thick barrier, open at both ends, has trillions of microbes on there. It's supposed to have nice tight junctions, so it's impenetrable. And when you eat something, that food goes digested, and through the cell, it's processed, and your body says, oh, that's a protein that's been digested, it's proper, I recognize it from the immune system, it's not going to be attacked. If you've got exposure to chemicals or sickness or NSAIDs or vaccines, that kind of thing, you can get gaps, a gap junction in the gut. Now the food doesn't go through the cell, but between the cell. And your body says, what is that? Is it bacteria? Is it yeast? Is it virus? I don't know. I'm going to make an antibody against that, and I'm going to try and kill it. So you make more and more antibodies against things you can't kill, because you can't kill an egg protein. You can't kill a whey protein, right? So when that happens, you make more and more of these antibodies, and at some point, the antibodies say, I know I'm made for an egg protein, but this nervous system tissue, or this gut tissue, or this skin tissue, it reminds me of something. Let's go attack that. That's molecular mimicry, and that's how you get the body being attacked by itself, by its immune system. So, we can't have that. So we talk about cleaning up the gut, making the gut healthy. We have to identify the bad guys, kill them, and then put in good guys. All right? We also have to find out what we actually have antibodies against in your food. There's a blood test we do. I did one today, as a matter of fact. It looks at 96 different food sensitivities, IgG antibodies, and if it shows up on that test, you stop eating those foods for a while, because they are poisonous for your gut brain. They're poisonous for your immune system. They won't always be that way, but that's the way they are now.
So if you are in that situation, like you find 3 things, then what do you do?
We stop giving the food, all right?
Okay, you quit eating it until you retest them?
Yes, that's off the food list. And then we find out who's in the gut with the doctor's data test. They tell us good guys, bad guys. They also tell us how to eradicate them with prescription and non-prescription means. And we kill them. And then we put in a good probiotic. Let me rephrase that. We put in the best probiotic to get the gut healthy again. Because once you're knocking them down, once you're killing them, there's room on that surface that's the size of a singles tennis court. My gut is the size of a singles tennis court, 1 cell thick. So it's a huge area. And if you've got an area the size of this room that has really bad bacteria, then I have to go anywhere to kill them. So you kill them first, and at the same time, put in the probiotic.
So are you finding that parents that they're having a difficult time getting the kids to swallow the ball?
No.
No?
No, because little ones, just have one ball to swallow. And 50 pounds, 50 to 100, 100 over. So those are the 3, 1, 2, and 3.
Okay, so what is your dosage?
50 at 1 at 50, 2 at 100, and 3 above 100. So from 50 to 100 is 2.
1 to 50 is 1.
Yeah.
50 to 100 is 2.
And above 100 is all 3, regular adult dose.
And that's like us, 3 per day.
Pardon me?
If it's like an older child, 3
3
per
days,
day,
just
just
like
like
that.
us.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not over, but by weight.
How do you
Yeah.
get around every bottle that says not recommended for pregnant women or people under 18?
It's just, that's a safety precaution. It doesn't have to be applied because kids are taking probiotics anyways. They always have been.
Okay.
So pregnant women, yes. Children, yes. That's just one of those CYA things, but there's been no problem. There's no contraindications for pregnant women taking any type of probiotic or kids taking any type of probiotic as well. Not a problem at all. So the gut immune system, all right, that relationship and the gut-brain relationship, very well established. All right. There are a number of very good bacteria, as we'll see in a few minutes here, that help establish health in the gut, mental health, physical health, and we'll go through those a little more in detail because I think that's worth the time. All right. So these 2 problems here, the antibody you have in the body, you have to eliminate those by not exposing the foods to your gut that cause in the first place. And the second was cleaning up the gut to make sure you're not having leaky gut, or as they call it, metabolic endotoxemia. Now that's the allopathic term because apparently you can bill more with that diagnosis. Of course. But it's always been leaky gut. All right. So you remove the offending foods. The immune system is not wasting energy. Think about it. You feel fatigued there, Pastor. If you're making antibodies against foods that your body can't kill anyways, that takes a tremendous amount of energy. All right? And it's just a waste of energy. So as you decrease those foods, you'll make less of these IgG antibodies that cross-react to the body. The body will stop attacking itself, and you'll have more energy, and you won't have the symptoms. The symptoms will cease. All right? Then we destroy the pathological bacteria in the gut and put in the good, best possible probiotics that we can to improve the permeability issue. So it's no longer a sieve. We want nice, tight junctions. And the body will be able to heal that, your gut will be able to heal that, but it takes some time. How long? Sometimes it can take a couple of years with adults. Kids are usually a lot faster because they heal faster, but adults can be 18 to 24 months. Yeah? It's not an overnight process.
Let me ask you this, so plain gut and everything, the cleanse system that we have, is that something that works together with this?
When the cleanse is a good idea when they are going through killing the bacteria, let's say with the antifungals, natural antifungals, and prescription antibiotics, it's a good time to use that, yes. Yeah, I guess I gotta address that in another slide too, to put that in there.
But they ceased making the cleanse.
Pardon me?
We no longer make the
We
cleanse.
no longer make a cleanse? Then some kind of cleanse is not a bad idea.
Oh,
Why'd they
that's-
stop that? Don't know.
Not enough sales, that's
Yep.
what they
Yeah.
said. I bought 12 bottles when they put them on
I
special.
know.
Ditto.
And I can see that because it's a very specific thing.
Yeah.
Other companies make that, and we just have to switch gears there. Maybe we'll reuse it again.
Activated charcoal lemonade.
So yeah, that's basically what you need there. So first pillar here, probiotics. Why? Because this is the best type of probiotic you can have right now, bar none. Why is that? All right. Oh, weird. All right. It has Wellmune. What's Wellmune? Wellmune is a patented product that LifeVantage did not make. That comes from a different company, and it's a yeast beta-glucan. What's that? It's a constituent, it's a polysaccharide from the cell of the yeast. And what it does is it helps the immune system. It helps fight off colds and cancer and all kinds of wonderful things. That's what's been proven. There are tons and tons, probably 2,000 papers on PubMed.gov just on beta-glucan. That's what Wellmune is. You've got 6 billion CFUs, colony-forming units, and people say, well, mine has 60 billion CFUs. I got to keep it in the refrigerator.
That's what, who was it? No,
All kinds of people talk about
Abraham
that.
Woods,
Yeah.
you know, urologist.
And you'll say, all right, that's the one they have to keep in the refrigerator in a dark bottle, and you have to sing a lullaby because if it's out exposed to the environment, it's gonna die. Okay, so, and I'm guilty of selling that stuff years ago as well. I had that stuff in the refrigerator in brown bottles because it was not very stable. So if you give that to someone and your pH in your gut is 1.1, what are the chances of that actually surviving and getting the small intestine? It is zilch. So we know, and this has just been done recently, if you give somebody lousy probiotics that will be killed in the gut or already killed probiotics, you still have the same immune response, which is limited compared to what we do now. But it improves the immune system health because it stimulates the Paris patches and the gall tissue in the gut. Whether it's dead or whether it's killed by the gut, you still have a positive effect. That's why it's been working up until now pretty well. But now we have a way to get those same effects and also put in bacteria that will grow. How cool is that? All right, yes?
Does a shake have Wellmune in it? And how many other probiotics is Wellmune?
I don't know if the shake, the new shake, I'm not familiar with that right now, so I can't answer that. If it's got one. I don't think so, I just looked at the
think so.
label. Anybody answer that? No, it does not.
I'm
I think
90%
it's just-
positive no.
I think it's just this
Okay.
one here, that we have it there.
Right, how many
So-
probiotics have that?
Wellmune?
Use the Wellmune.
Oh, you can buy Wellmune by itself. From different companies. It's sold by a standalone product by the companies, yeah. Yeah, it's patented, other products like we use it, other people use it, or use it by itself. So they've done a good job by including that in there, having 6 billion units that will actually get through the stomach acid and grow, which is pretty important. All right, and this delivers 15 times more bacteria to the gut than similar products. I used to have another product out of Illinois, which was really good, and it's a spore form, but its germination rate and growth rate in the gut is not as good as probiotic. So that's the best one now. And this helps to improve the tight junctions. Remember the gaps we talked about before? Helps to improve and heal those tight junctions so you don't have a leaky gut or metabolic endotoxemia. So those are the highlights. Now to get a little more specific, all right, 6 different strains, Lactobacillus casei. Inhibits pathological bacterial growth in the gut. So these things are kind of clever. Some of these bacteria make antibiotics against other bacteria. How clever is that? That's very, very good. Inhibits lung and bladder cancer. I cut off the R there, but it's cancer. Lactobacillus rhamnosus helps treat metabolic endotoxemia. That's a leaky gut. Helps neural function. Bifidobacter helps with also colitis, boosts the immune system, fights infection. So they picked 6 really good strains. All right, those are the first 3. The next 2 here, plantarum, Lactobacillus plantarum, clinically used to treat irritable bowel syndrome, and it makes its own antibiotics as well. All right, Lactobacillus acidophilus helps reduce colds and flu symptoms, reduces weight. That's kind of important. Bifidobacter lactis increase anti-cancer activity in the body, and boosts T cells. So that's an anti-cancer activity that it has. So all these things are well researched, well documented, and they brilliantly picked those things to put them together along with the Wangian, which I think is pretty darn clever. So I feel comfortable giving this. Plus, as you see later on, the results kind of speak for themselves with patients that have the most difficult gut issues, and those are autistic kids. I'm going to say that till the end. Yes?
Question. So now we have a pre and a probiotic. So have you seen like how that ties in together? Like,
Well, what is a prebiotic? Prebiotic is the food, typically FOS, fruit oligosaccharide, which is the stuff these guys munch on. So if you have a good diet, you eat a lot of green leafies, artichoke, that kind of stuff, you will have plenty of prebiotic made by the gut.
but most people don't.
Most people don't. So in that case, the way we eat at home, I don't take this product because I literally don't need it, the prebiotic. And that's not, my diet is, trust me, it's not the same as everybody else's.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's necessary for those that don't eat very well, but they're the ones that either need the blood test and the stool test, and so they'll go through this whole product and they can take the prebiotic too. All right, what's the next step? Number 2 is brain health. So, and the one that was mentioned that before is not in the room right now. All right. Because your body's been wasting a lot of time and energy making antibodies that are not useful other than to attack itself at some point. So that's a big energy sucker or a big energy sink. That includes mental health as well. So what do you do here? Axio. All right. This is a little bit blurrier than I would like. I thought they would look cleaner on the picture here. And what does it do? Axio improves mental endurance and mental acuity, improves concentration, memory, attention, physical and mental energy, improves positive mood, increases brain resilience, attention, reduces mental fatigue and brain fog. That's a lot. That's very boastful, I thought. We're boasting on a lot of information there. Is it true? Well, let's see what's in there and what the research talks about the constituents to see if that is indeed the case. So, DMAE, dimethylaminoethanol, all right? Helps support normal brain function and nervous system function, optimizing memory and attention without overstimulation, helps promote all these things here, improves learning performance and mental acuity. Is that true? Yes. Why? It is a precursor compound. It's a precursor of choline, and choline becomes acetylcholine, all right? This is going way back in school days. You don't have to memorize this, but you can say, all right, the main one, the first alphabetical order, the first constituent, the DMAE, helps your body make more neurotransmitter, and that neurotransmitter is important in memory and in mental health. All right, learning and memory. And I just pulled one article from a couple of years ago on that. So that is a good constituent of Axio. So we talked about memory and learning. Check marks on both of those. What else is in there? Green tea. Green tea has been studied for a long time. Green tea has been used for millennia. All right. Is it a good product? Yes. Why? Natural source of caffeine, helps to boost natural energy. There's no doubt about it. So review green tea hallucinosis with anti-photoaging, stress. Why is it doing that? Okay, good. Stress reduction, neuroprotective, anti-cancer. I mean, green tea is you can plug that in and see thousands of PubMed reviews on green tea as well. So, we talked about, I did it again.
What about the people that say that they can't have caffeine?
Oh, a very small amount in green tea, very small amount. So that's not an issue. You're not going to take. I mean, the other thing too with the Axio is they have the non-caffeinated. So that's what I use with kids.
But there's still a little caffeine in that, isn't there?
In the one that's caffeinated, it's 100 milligrams.
Yeah, but there's like 2 milligrams in the decaf. But you know what? If a kid eats a piece of chocolate,
Oh, yeah,
they've
no, it's
got
not-
more
yeah.
than that. So
Yeah.
that's
Not an
just pushback.
Yeah,
They're giving
yeah.
you when they say
There's not
that.
an issue there at all.
No issue.
All right, so New Zealand pine bark extract. All right, enzogenol. There's pycnogenol and there's enzogenol, and that is the term that's used specifically for the chemical out of the Australian, or sorry, New Zealand. They'd be upset if I said that. New Zealand pine bark. All right. Helps support optimal mental performance, anti-inflammatory properties, improves cognitive function after traumatic brain injury. A lot of good research on this with TBI. All right. And this one here is looking at cognitive function and traumatic injury. A pilot placebo, I think it's 60 people that had injuries from 3 to 12 months and had significantly good results, giving them this particular thing. Neuroprotective function outcome after traumatic injury, series of review clinical literature. This is more recent. So there are articles out there, you can, if you're really interested, you can read. But suffice it to say, this is very, very powerful stuff as well. So we talked about learning and memory and brain health, cellular health, anti-cancer. Now we're talking about cognitive problems, anti-inflammatory properties. So far we're checking all the boxes. All right, L-theanine, and this is a registered trademark name, suntheanine, which it's still L-theanine, which is amino acid, helps promote healthier, sustained energy without overstimulation, helps to promote a state of well-being and alertness, helps to improve learning performance, focus, and mental acuity. All right, so this is done in kids. All right, kids with ADHD, hyperactivity problems. It's safe, it's well tolerated, and works very, very well. So also helps in this study helps with the kids sleeping. And I'll tell you right now, one of the testimonies that I don't have on here right now because it just happened in the past 7 days. One of my patients has 8 children. So she came in one day looking particularly fatigued. Not that she's, not usually fatigued, but particularly fatigued. And I said, Elizabeth, what's going on? And her 5-year-old was having, the past month, 4 meltdowns a day. And she said, 4 meltdowns per day. And I said, give him some of this grapefruit. That's what I gave him, because I was out of raspberry. I think grapefruit's a lot more subtle. So if that for kids that have taste issues, just give them grapefruit because it's very, very subtle. And then Monday she came in and said she had 2 on the weekend. That's it. So she was happy because she wasn't quite so tired.
Question.
But 4 a day, that's a lot of meltdown for a 5-year-old.
The study, is it specifically on L-theanine?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, these are for the theanine. And I'm waiting for our friends at LifeVantage to have their studies because I'm sure they're out there and they're pending.
Which one is in the caffeine versus the decaf? L-theanine or DME?
They're both
love
in
it.
there.
Which one is?
They're both in there.
Both.
They're both in.
What's in the caffeinated that isn't in the decaf?
Caffeine.
No,
That's it.
there's something else.
Nope. That's it. That's it. Just the caffeine. Quercetin, okay. Antioxidant function helps to boost immune cellular protection, improves memory. There's tons and tons of literature on quercetin as well. Regulates and mitigates stress response to improve memory. That was from last year, this year actually that came out. Mitigates this, I think, is a mouse model. So all the others are human studies. This is the only mouse study here. Mitigates anxiety behavior in mice, so you can calm mice with this, which is important, I think. If your mouse is stressed, that's not good for us.
And it has a traumatic brain injury.
So these things will be, I think, borne out because these kind of studies with neurological behavior in mice fit very, very well with humans. So
Do you have any patient testimonies for kids that, I saw something about handwriting changed dramatically.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't put that on. I
Do you
forgot
have
to
that
Yeah.
somewhere that I could show someone?
And I mean, the mom could do a testimony on the and the other one was an adult. I told Daniel this. He's being treated. His wife has gone through a lot of stressful stuff. They thought she had an autoimmune problem and lymphoma and leukemia, that type of thing, and thankfully she didn't. And he said she's very, very stressed. So I said, try some of this, and I gave her some grapefruit. And that was on a Monday. The Wednesday he came in and said, "Can I buy that?" And I said, "Yes." And I'll give you some. I said, "Tell me what happened." So she'd been under a lot of stress, kind of withdrawn, kind of very, I don't say depressed, I mean, but just withdrawn. She drank one in the afternoon and went to play bingo that night. She hasn't played, according to him, she hasn't played bingo in years. Didn't want to play bingo, had no interest in doing anything. That was from one serving of grapefruit Axio.
Wow.
So he was impressed. And then of course he said, "Can I try this stuff?" And I said, "Absolutely." And I don't know what it's going to do with you, but we know that it's helped her, so I think that's worth her continuing, and he agreed. So that was kind of cool. I'm going to put those on my next lunch, I wouldn't have time for them to actually type them up, email them to me.
Do you have anything, you know, one of the things, I don't know if you can share why, I mean, one of the things that were mentioned is that there's a cumulative effect from continuing to take Axio. Can you?
Well, that's true, but then the same thing is true for NRF2, because a part of these things are anti-inflammatory, and all these things. One of the hallmarks is that they're significantly antioxidant. All right, both in a non-enzymatic and a non-enzymatic form, like a 1-to-1 ratio we talked about, like vitamin E or vitamin C, quercetin. They're also antioxidant, but long-term use of green tea in and of itself and other natural supplements also enhances gene expression. Not as powerfully as protandim, nothing does, but if you use these things for decades, and they do in East India and in China, or in the Far East I should say, that has an impact on the gene expression. So is there a cumulative effect of doing good things to the genes? Absolutely. Well, like NRF2, well, the cumulative effect of taking this product on a regular basis? Absolutely. So it's the same kind of thought process. These things are good if you have less free radicals. If you have 50 decades of less free radicals, you will be healthier. No one's going to say, now you'll be worse off. That's just nonsense to think that. So it's the same idea here. If you take this product on a regular basis, you take the probiotic on a regular basis, is that a cumulative effect? Well, it is if you're going to have less damaging bacteria in your gut. So that same thought process can be applied even to the probiotic. Make sense?
Can you take Axio too much?
I think if it's caffeinated, yeah, you can take too much caffeine. All right.
Well, I know how that's me. If I take it.
But the other supplements in there, I mean, when you go through the literature, they're giving 5,000 milligrams of this stuff, you know, to just of a single supplement. So it's tolerated very, very well. And there are other studies where they were giving it to cancer cells, neuroblastoma, human neuroblastoma, and they're saying, all right, does it help them? Does it make them grow faster? The answer is no. So that was kind of important too. I'm not sure if that was the DMAE or what one of the constituents said. So we know that it's vegan, we know it's BSCG, that's the banned substance control group, so it's okay for the Olympic athletes to take, all right? Low carbs, it's what, 2 or 3 grams, so 10 to 15 calories, no big deal. Gluten-free, non-GMO, natural. I tell patients that when they take this stuff, they gotta shake it. The difference between this and other stuff that's out there, let's say Gatorade will stay orange on the shelf for 1,000 years. It'll never settle. All right?
Isn't there stevia in there too?
That is the sweetener, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
which is a prebiotic.
Yeah,
Which is
that's
great.
true. That's true.
Yeah.
So you gotta shake it up because it's gonna settle. Natural stuff will settle. All right. That's what I keep on telling my stomach. It's gonna be settled, so it must be natural. All right, one last step. All right, we got to recognize that the environment now is not getting any cleaner. Plastics and chemicals and pesticides and even this stuff here, the electromagnetic issue. You know, headphones, wireless headphones, which I banned for my children years ago. These chemical and electrical environments are not good for us. There's no doubt about it, and that creates what? More free radicals, more damage in the body. So we have to address that. Get an onslaught of toxins, both recognized and unrecognized or unappreciated, and something has to be done. So with my son, he had a lot of chemotherapy. He had no ionizing radiation, thank God, but a lot of chemotherapy. When you do a bone marrow transplant, the idea is to kill the patient just enough, so you kill the immune system, but you don't kill them. And then you quickly put the new cells in, and that's what works. So his chance of getting significant problems as he gets older are double that in the kid just from the chemotherapy they had. And that to me was not acceptable. So I used to be giving him 7 different non-enzymatic antioxidants. Resveratrol, N-acetylcysteine, quercetin, immunical, what else? Anyway, 7 of them I do. Not that they were bad, nothing wrong with these things. It's just they became obsolete. Because when Michael Huey, her significant other, said, hey, I got a thing here, it's the best thing since sliced bread. I remember, I can picture him right down. I was going to the second room of my office, and he's leaving, and he's had this bottle, and he said, it's the best, I'll leave it for you to take a look at. And he said, oh, by the way, go to PubMed and look at the research.
That's
No one
what
had
they-
ever said that to me before. Back then, there were 6 articles on PubMed, and that was it. And when I looked at, I didn't actually look at it until 6 months later. All right. And then when I did, I thought this is exactly what I needed for my son, because now we have something that's not a non-enzymatic antioxidant, but one that actually creates enzymes, as we'll discuss here, that does that. So the third pillar is protandim and NRF2. Why? Because oxidative stress is what kills us. All right. On a second by second, millisecond by millisecond basis. All right, it's causing 3 R's, what I call the 3 R's: rotting, rusting, and wrinkles.
That's cute.
All right, so you've got reaction oxygen species. Why does it do that?
Sorry.
Don't apologize. It's my control here. You've got nitrogen oxygen species. Suffice it to say, they act like the Tasmanian devil. Remember the Tasmanian devil spinning around? Okay, that's a free radical, and a free radical has an unpaired electron, so it's not happy. It's only happy when it has an even number of electrons in its outer environment. So it spins around, and it rams into your DNA, and it rips off an electron, or it rams into your mitochondria, it rips off an electron, or it rams into your cell wall, it rips off an electron, and then it's happy. But it does damage to that part of your cell that it just ripped the electron off. And that happens 1 or 2 times, that's not a big deal, but it happens on the order of 10 to the 23rd zeros after it. What are they, septillion?
Yep.
Yeah.
Septillion. That's a lot of zeros, that's a lot of damage. Now, with this, we have a way to actually increase the enzymes in your body, genes that create SOD, superoxidase dismutase, catalase and glutathione peroxidase, enzymes that their job is to go to that Tasmanian devil and give it a hug. So here's your electron, and then it's fine. So it destroys the free radicals, but let them destroy you first. Up to 40% in a month and 70% in 4 months in human beings. And when I first heard that, I didn't believe it, and that's why I had to read about it, because I thought that's impossible. We've always said that eating, good food is better because it destroys free radicals. No one is ever able to measure that. Intuitively, it makes sense, but my feeling is that it's not so much that you eat good things that destroy free radicals, because you don't have this kind of gene impact with any of the foods you eat. Maybe over the decades you have that, but certainly not to this degree, and not as quickly as this. But if you're not eating good stuff, you're eating junk. The refined foods and the sugars and the fats and the palm oils, those things create a free radical storm in the body. So it's not so much that you're eating good things that make a massive difference, but if you're not eating good stuff, you're eating bad stuff, and that makes a massive difference. So by default, eating a better diet, you do better. Now we have a way of making that change by leaps and bounds. 47%, that's mind blowing. All right? And that's only some of what it does, obviously. We're talking activates about, I think it's 4,000 or maybe 4,500 different genes that affects in the human genome, in your cell. And you got 25,000 genes. That's a massive percentage are under the control of NRF2.
Wow, I didn't know the number was that high.
Yeah, it's a
I've been
big
telling
number.
people like 600 genes and it's 4,500. Woo,
No, vitamin D is probably close to 600 this week. And that's a good second place.
Yeah.
And the thing is, no one knew about that pathway until 1999. And when I studied genetics, I used to actually sequence DNA the old-fashioned pipettes and gels and stuff. No one knew that back in the 80s and early 90s when I was doing that. So 1999, that's when it came out. And to think that thing was such a powerful cell controller, the increased activation. Activation means your cells are quiet. When you're getting older, they become more quiet. The important ones that create these enzymes fall right asleep, you can say. And as a result, we age. We have more free radical damage that ages us. Rotting, rusting, and wrinkles. All right. This wakes them up. It causes those cells to become active again. So you're not making anything new per se. You're making it at the rate that you did when you were a kid, which is huge. So there's a test. You can test that. The T-bar test, a blood test to look at how close you are to a newborn level of enzymes, and that's an expensive test, but it's been proven. And
You mean after you've been taking it for a while, you can do that test?
yeah, well, you can do it before and after to show a difference.
Or you can do
Who
it.
was it? Hayden. He had that. We did that one of his clients.
Robert.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
They were
bought
4.5.
I bought a kit too, a long time ago.
Well, we did it with one person, and that was not too long ago.
How-
John, we say about
Sure.
brings you back to a healthy baby, right?
Yes?
Okay.
I didn't say that, Dr. McCord said
No, I
that.
understand, and I agree with that too, but we
Self-assessment.
have to qualify that as with the level of unhealthy babies
Oh, yeah.
being born
Yeah.
for
Now,
words that we're not supposed to
in-
publicly talk about. But what I'm saying is what some of us believe is a strong contributor to the lack of good health in small children. How can you, so to tell somebody that Protan will bring you back to the level and then they know so many children that are
That
autistic
started way
or
behind the eight
whatever.
ball, yeah.
So they don't even know what that means
Yeah.
to get back to the level of a healthy child.
That's a good point. I mean, even my son, I
But
mean, if we checked his
ideally,
levels-
maybe a child born in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
if we checked his levels, I'm sure they'd be way, way low. I mean, by 8 months, he was already showing signs and problems.
Yeah.
But your point is well taken. And you'll see why it does affect these kids that are profoundly challenged.
That's
It has
what
a
I
huge,
need to
huge
know.
impact. We'll see that in
Yeah.
a few minutes here.
So how does the T-bar test compare to the telomere tests?
Telomere test. Telomeres are the little ends of your DNA that, best analogy is on the running shoes, you got little plastic ends on there. If you take the plastic ends off, what's going to happen? It's going to fray. And you may step on them and may rip them off and they'll shorten. So as the cells divide, they get shorter and shorter and shorter. Those telomeres will continue to shorten. So what I'm waiting for is a good test, a good study with rotandem and telomere length. Because certain things will increase telomere length, and I think this will be one of them. Because if you look at other things that they're testing to improve telomere length, it all has to do with free radical damage. Reduce free radicals, and their length can actually increase. So that's kind of cool. So I can hardly wait for that. And I'm sure that's coming, because it only makes sense. Intuitively, it makes sense.
So NRF2, John, is not a life vantage, it's universal NRF2.
NRF2
They
is-
can't copyright it.
No, it's a pathway.
And-
It's a gene pathway.
And there's advertisements where you can get it with broccoli, and I know that's not as good as this, but you see a whole list on the internet of broccoli and other things, and they say this is NRF2.
It is. I got a funny story.
Activator, yeah.
Because it's a protein. NRF2 is a protein that's inactive in the cytoplasm. It's got a couple of little key proteins that keep it from being inactive. You need something to knock off those key proteins, and it goes in the nucleus. Different things do that. So I'm at a conference a couple years ago, nutrition conference, my mandatory conferences, and one of the speakers is talking about broccoli seed extract, how important it is for NRF2 activation. And I have on everybody's desk the world's most powerful NRF2 activator, a thing that I printed out to give them, because I was also vending for LifeVantage at this conference. And they put their hands up and they asked some questions. I finally put my hand up and I said, just so everybody knows, there is a natural product out there that's 6 times more powerful, and that was done on the Hydroxy.
Hydroxin study, 2011.
Yeah. So,
All right.
okay, page 6 looks at,
I know
it
it
looks
inside
at,
out.
it's 6 times more powerful than broccoli seed extract. So fear fan.
Or
So,
go straight up with protein, go straight up like that.
so I told that, and put my hand up, and I just said it out loud. That was my plug. And then a guy says, he's like 2 rows ahead of me to the left. He says, "What is it?" And I just grabbed the page and I hold it up, and he looks down and he grabs his page and he laughs and he puts it in his briefcase. So that was kind of funny, but you're right. It's not. It is a pathway mediated through this particular protein. So it's not patented. It's not a trademark name. It's like insulin, for example. It's the same type of analogy. Not by what it does, but the fact it's a natural compound. So, if I have to educate you on all these different things, it's going to take all night. Suffice it to say, you'll see lots of different studies, everything from altitude sickness to melanoma to trends in athletes to free radicals to MS to all these things,
Heart
and
disease.
Parkinson's as well. Heart disease, I should say, yes, heart disease. So, take the time to look at those articles. And it's over 20. What is it now? 26?
26 or 27, yeah.
26. All right.
Good.
So, and again, that's amazing. You will find, ladies and gentlemen, that chemotherapy drugs have maybe 1 or 2 or 3, well, more than 1, 2 or 3 peer-reviewed articles, and that's it. I remember one of my patients came in, he was taking a colon drug, so I researched it. There were 2 articles with 702 patients ever tested.
Wow. Little.
It was amazing. So these things are not.
Do you know of any studies coming up, or do you hear
No,
news from
I don't.
life
I'm
image?
going to put my ear to the ground again because I'm curious to see where they're pushing, what they're looking for, and I think it's got to be telomeres because that's still the cutting edge. All right. So through this three-pronged approach here, reducing antibody attacks on the body, healing the gut, improving brain energy and healing, we get by reducing free radicals, we can change the body and heal the body in a substantial and measurable way, which is kind of important, especially in kids. All right. So the purpose here, our purpose here, is to have people live a long, happy, healthy, pain-free life. That's why I get up every day. That's what floats my boat. All right. So what have been the results? So bear with me here because some of this may be cut off, but this is amazing moments. This is from a mother of two daughters. The oldest one is autistic with severe autism. And she's worked with biomedical options, specialized diets for years, some progress, but the anxiety industry of the body keeps them from moving forward. 2 months ago, she started probio. Probiotic advantage recommended by me. At first, there was not a marked difference, but in the past week, she's unprompted language. She told me they were driving. No, she didn't say it. They were driving along, and she did not even know her daughter knew the word turkey, let alone to use it